That was lovely. No, the music I'm listening to, but that cheese is also nice. All right. It is good cheese, and it is good music. How we doing, everybody? Is anybody here? You never know with these guys. Sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're hiding. I got a lot of lurkers. Some of these people, Jules, they're smarter than me, and they just hang out and chat to wait for me to make a mistake, and then they go, "Oh, I believe the answer is this." You know who you are. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, buddy. Let's pull up the lesson. This is good stuff. Okay. Caesar Cipher. What? All of that stuff. Let's get Notepad back up. Wow. Okay. Okay. So, I guess the question is, do you want to get started by rerunning through the Caesar cipher, or should we move directly into the homework? And I'm open to suggestions there. I think it would probably be reasonable to go through the Caesar cipher quickly, but if you'd like, we can do it in depth. Hey, buddy. Hi, buddy. So, tell me how you feel about that. Do you feel like we feel like a Peter Frampton song? If you get that reference, I'm surprised. I feel like you're all, well, some of you are my age or older. Hey, buddy. Do you feel like we do? Yeah, there it is. Feel like some hoon. That's good stuff. I wish I had one of those things that I could talk through the guitar because that would make it a lot cooler. Ooh, little kid laughter in that one. I'm not a fan of that. I'll bring it down a little bit. That's the creepy stuff, man. Okay. Well, let's go through the Caesar cipher quickly, and I want you to identify if you have any questions along the way. I think it's important that we get those out of the way, and then we'll start programming the assignments. So we have this like walkthrough that we went through last time, and all of this is still true because the program hasn't changed since the last time we talked. But I guess we'll just walk through these sections again and make sure that we understand what's happening. So, starting at the top, we have a gate that takes message and steps, which are a tape and PAT-UD respectively. We know from what we learned last time that the message will be produced. In fact, let's launch our ship here. What? Oh. So Cesar cell of this test and 1 gives us a encrypted message on the left and a decrypted potential message on the right, such that if we Cesar UIJTUFTU 1, we get back on the left an encrypted version of that message, on the right a decrypted version of our message that we initially had. So we know that's going to be the product of our generator, and we know from just looking at it that we're getting a cell as output. We have on line 5 a call to make a binary cell, or a binary cell. And we can pretty much assume that this is going to be our output here. So our output is going to be generated by shift and unshift. These are two calls to arms in the core below. And both of them take message and steps that come in from our initial gate. Also at the beginning, we see that our initial message is cast, such that if we went back to this test, but we did it all funny like this, we get the same outcome. And that's because we are using TISDOT to create a pocket universe where message has been cast, which is a standard library function to turn everything to lower case. Okay. So how does the cell of lines 5 and 6 call an arm from a core that is separate from it? We know that this is some core here, and this is some separate core. And we know that the arms of a core, so the arm buck here, should take as its subject the core in which it resides. And yet these arms do not reside in the same core. How do we achieve calling arms from a core other than the one that we're currently in? By using TISGAL. TISGAL allows us to compose two expressions inverted. And all that is to say is that the expression from line 8 to line 57 goes into memory first, and then lines 4 through 6 are computed in light of the fact that lines 8 through 57 are in memory. So in very simple terms, we make the core that is lines 8 through 57 available to us in the initial part of the gate, lines 4 through 6, using TISGAL on line 3. Everybody clear on that part and how we get to the place where we are able to call arms from below? Let me know. Shout it out. Okay, so what do we do? Well, we're going to follow, much like we did last time. Perfect. Much like we did last time, we're going to follow just shift through its various uses of the arms beneath us here. Two cores. Only one can survive. There can be only one. That's the line. Or I just thinking of an Urbit wrapper called two cores instead of two chains. Like, or if you're more into Monty Python, you could have the Arthur Two Cores Jackson. I remember Normcore. That's Norm Macdonald's brother, right? Okay, so we're going to follow shift through its use of the various arms beneath us here. And in order to interpret unshift, oh yes, I do remember Normcore. In order to interpret unshift, we need only reverse the things that are happening. So basically, shift and unshift work exactly the same. The large difference here is that when we create if you recall, the way that we actually do the interaction of our message to our encoded message is we make a map of the correct alphabet to the encoded alphabet, and then we use a standard library function to replace the correct alphabet letters with the encoded alphabet letters. Unshift does the same thing, only in reverse, such that the encoded alphabet is on the key side of the map, and the correct alphabet is on the value side of the map. It assumes that whatever letters it's getting in are encoded. It requests the value from the standard alphabet back, and it replaces that encoded alphabet letter with the standard alphabet letter that is in the value position for that key, and thereby it at least attempts to what do we call it? Decode the message. Okay, so shift and unshift happening the same way. We'll take a look at the difference between them a little bit more, but that's why we're only following shift through the program. So what does shift do? Well, shift takes a tape, which is our initial message, and the number of shift steps, which is our initial pat UD, and we can see from line 12 that it takes, line 11 it takes them in as a cell. Line 12 it casts its output as a tape. So we know that it's going to produce some tape, which will then become the head of the cell that is our output. How does it produce that tape? Well, it does that by calling operate with 2 arguments. Remember that this pal-par notation is always a shorthand. I'm trying to think if it's always. Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, so long as it's not prepended by another glyph, pal-par is always a use of senhep to call a gate with some arguments. So if pal-par is not prepended by another glyph, e.g. bar or tis or pam, etc., then it should always be interpreted as a, let's put, to the best of rabsef's knowledge, interpreted as a usage of senhep to call a gate with some arguments as the sample for that gate. I think that that's true 100% of the time, but we'll take it as it lies. So in any event, how do we produce the tape that we use to make the head of our cell that is our output? Well, shift calls operate with a cell of arguments. That cell of arguments is first our ahead of our message, which we know what the message is, and a tail of whatever the call to encoder with the number of shift steps produces. So now we need to move to the encoder arm. The encoder arm receives just the steps from shift, as we saw earlier when it's called here on line 13. It passes the number of steps. The encoder arm only takes a number of steps. It doesn't really need a cell around it here, but that's neither here nor there. And we can see that it produces a map of a pat t to a pat t. So again, this is how we're going to do our eventual substitution. Eventual substitution. We're going to have a map of either correct alphabet to scrambled alphabet or scrambled alphabet to correct alphabet, and we will use a standard library function to operate against our incoming message, replacing either the correct alphabet letter with the scrambled alphabet letter or vice versa, in our attempts to both encode the message and decode the message at the same time. Okay, how does it produce this map? Well, the first thing that it does is it creates a face called value tape, and the reason it's called value tape is because this tape is going to become the value section of the map that is produced, and it produces that by calling rotation alpha steps. Subsequently, it calls space adder with the standard alphabet and the value tape. So in order to know what happens in space adder, we must first look at the rotation arm. Given that it's provided alpha and steps as its arguments. Alpha we know to be the leg that contains all of the data here for the standard alphabet. Okay, scooch down to rotation arm. We really should reorder this because this should be up here and space adder should really be above most of this stuff, but whatever. Rotation arm takes in a tape and steps. In this case, it's receiving the standard alphabet and the number of steps with which to scramble the standard alphabet. Line 54 says what is the length of the tape that's coming in. In this case, it's always going to be 26 because that's the length of the alphabet. Line 55 uses trim, which we saw last time. Let's do a test trim here. Trim A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Why is there whispering? It's freaking me out. Oh, right. I gotta give it a number. Let's do 10. What? Is it trim 10 then the tape? It is. It's trim 10 then the tape. 1 second. There we go. Thank you. Sorry. Yep. Okay. So, trim, as we can see, produces a cell of P and Q where it trims where, let's say, it bifurcates a tape at the 10th position, or whatever number we call it with, and produces the first 10 values on the left, the remaining values on the right. Why do we use tis lus here? Well, tis lus, it pins the head of an expression to, it pins to the head of the subject the result of an expression to its right. So the trim value cell, the product of trim, is pinned to the head of the subject, which means that rather than using tis fas or something like that where we give it a face and then we'd have to call Q of that face or P of that face, we can refer to Q and P directly. I should say P and Q directly from the trim operation. So P and Q are, I like to think of it as exposing the namespace of an operation, and in fact it really annoys me when people use tislus to like produce things that don't have internal faces. Like I don't understand why people do that sometimes, but neither here nor there. I like it. I like to use tislus only if I am exposing the internal namespace of something that's going on. So Q and P are available to us. We have trimmed our alphabet by the modulus of the number of steps we asked to rotate and the length of the alphabet. Why do we do this? What's going on here? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Well, right. Yes, that's right. We need to stay within the tape, and so we make sure that anything over 26 is reduced down to the remainder past 26. This does mean, you're right, if we try to shift 30, we get 4, and so on. There's 26 letters in the alphabet, right? Right? Anyway, however many letters in the alphabet there are, we get the remainder of the division of that incoming step value. Okay, so we've trimmed our alphabet. We get something like what we see on screen here in the dojo, a P and a Q value. It's pinned to the head of the subject such that we can we can operate against them directly rather than behind a face of something else. And we weld Q and P. So let's go back and just have an example of that. If I use tislus, just like they've done, we should then be able to weld QP and get doll. Using model allows us to treat the list as a ring. Modulo math is clock math. Yeah, that's good. I like that. That's a very good interpretation of it. Oh, and I forgot to head our highlight rotation arm. Clock math. Clock. Yeah, I like that a lot. That might actually be in the docs too. But that's the correct way to think of it. Right. So We have welded P and Q. We get our scrambled alphabet. So now we must go back up to where we called rotation arm. It was way back here in the encoder arm. We produced a face called value tape that we know now is the scrambled alphabet. And we then call space adder, the most terrifying form of snake, with the standard alphabet and the scrambled alphabet. So now we need to go to space adder to see what space adder is going to do for us. And I think that this is a confusing bit because space adder we know is going to produce a map of pat-t's, like that's what it says it's going to do on the tin here. So we know that's going to be the eventual result. But space adder is sort of like the last step in the map creation rather than the first step, and I think that that's a bit confusing. It might have been more readily interpretable had we called the map maker arm and had that added spaces internally or something like that. But here we are, so be it. Okay, I've lost my train of thought. Right, so we go to the space adder and we need to see what it does there. Space adder takes in a tape and a tape, which we are giving it. The key position in this case coming from encoder is alpha, which is the standard library, or I'm sorry, the standard alphabet. The value result tape is value tape coming from encoder, which is the scrambled alphabet. So we are giving it the standard alphabet and the scrambled alphabet in that order. And we see that what it does we know that this produces a map as well. And how does it do that? Well, it uses a standard library function to put a key value pair into a map. The key value pair that it puts in is space to space, so that spaces are maintained. We saw that earlier when we did Caesar cipher with this test. We see that there's 4 letters, then a space, then 4 letters. That is maintaining the space. That is accomplished by using the space adder. But this begs the question, if space adder produces a map and it does so by inserting a key value position into an existing map, then how does space adder produce a map? It does so by calling map maker with the same tapes that it got in, respectively key position, which is our standard alphabet, and value result, which is our scrambled alphabet. Lastly, we must then turn to MapMaker to see how the standard alphabet and the scrambled alphabet are put together into a map. How is that done? Well, let's look at what we have in that arm. So it takes in a key position and a value result. Again, that's the standard alphabet and the scrambled alphabet, respectively. At least when this call is coming from the lineage of the calls that began in shift, which went to encoder and so on. Okay, so this also produces a map. We know that this is going to be the map to which space adder adds the key value pair of space space. I don't like that laughing either. That's freaking me out. It bunts a map of pat-t to pat-t called chart. So this is going to be where we put our results. And then it checks what dot if the key position tape is the same length as the value result tape, which we can suspect it is, because that's the alphabet and the scrambled alphabet. If it is not, it errors out with a message that says uneven lengths. These things need to be the same length because it's going to try to pin the head of one as the key and the head of the other as the value for that key, and if we ran out of any one of them, we would have too many keys and not enough values or whatever. Too many rookies and not enough pros, as the song went. So then we form a trap, line 44, and we ask ourselves, keys do open doors. Keys open lots of doors, and the doors always lead to values. We ask ourselves whether either, this bar is either, bar pal, and so this is the Oh, is that? I get it. They're not talking about that kind of key. They're talking about that other kind of key. You know what I'm talking about. All right, so like bar, pal, par being an exception to the above is the either operator, either, or I should say the or logical operator. So this, oh, I thought it might have been, what's that guy's name? Oh, there's one that my friends really liked in Chicago, and he always talked about how he was the like a real drug dealer. Doesn't matter. Um, this in line 45, what Cole asks if either key position or value result are null. Now we have just checked whether they're the same length, so it would make sense that we don't really need to check whether either of them are null because whatever recursive process we're going through, so long as it truncates them at the same rate, they should both become null at the same time. But the real reason that we are checking whether either of them are null is such that we can access the head and the tail of them using I and T, which is afforded to us by them being lists, which is a non-null list. So, in the way that we check here, we are checking whether either of them is null. If either of them is null, we produce chart. Otherwise, we go into a recursive call that returns us to the trap. What does the recursive call do? Well, it updates chart to have... Hold on. Jules? Hold on 1 second. My cats are going to knock something off. Okay, sorry about that. So chart becomes itself with the key value pair of the head of key position and the head of value result inserted into it. Key position becomes the tail of itself, value result becomes the tail of itself, and we recurse. And so on. So that's all that happens in MapMaker. I think we're all getting this part. And now we can return all the way up to the top. So MapMaker feeds its result back into SpaceAdder, which adds spaces, which feeds its result back into Encoder, which gives us a map, which feeds itself back into this call to operate. Operate is a gate. It takes two arguments, a tape and a map. We can finally turn to the last operation in our core, which is the operate operation. What does operate do? It takes our original incoming map, incoming message, and some map. That map is either standard alphabet to scrambled alphabet or vice versa. And it returns a tape. We can see that in line 30. How does it do that? It uses sendless to call a gate with a cell of arguments. What are the cell of arguments? Well, what is the gate? The gate is turn. We can see here that turn applies a gate to each element of a list. And the list is our incoming original message. And the gate is the gate that we see in lines 32 and 33. That takes a pat t. We can recall that a list or a tape is nothing more than a list of pat t values. So we know that this gate is going to be applied to each element of our incoming tape. Each element of our incoming tape will be a pat t. We use got by shift map and that pat t value to say what is the value at the key position of the current letter in the tape, and we get a returned value which is from that map. That is either our scrambled alphabet or our unscrambled alphabet, as the case may be. We replace each letter in our tape with the result of our map lookup. and we return the tape having done so for each element in that tape. And that gets shot back up to shift, which returns it as a tape, which returns it as the head of the cell in our output. We do the same thing for unshift, just in the other direction. All good? Any questions about that? Yeah, Hoon's dope. I'm sold on Gaul, and I didn't think I was gonna be because Gaul's kind of a pain in the. Gaul looks to me. So I guess I don't have a strong background in computer science, as you might have derived from our lessons together. Turn takes a list A and returns the list BBB of the results, applying some gate to each element of A. Yes, that's correct. So, like, you could imagine using. Let's do this. Let's derive an operation using turn here. So we're going to take a list of PAT-UDs, and we are going to turn A using the gate B equals PAT-UD, add A1. Or, I'm sorry, add B1. Okay, so see this gate here? Suppose we use this. Let's put this in as test and hope that it computes. Yes, okay, so if we put in test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because we are taking the list A, we are applying the gate in lines 3 and 4 to it, which basically says for each element in A, add 1 to it, and return that result in the position that the original value came from. How do you mean it's a higher order function? Judd, does that example answer your question? I think it does. I want to know what you mean by higher order function. Yeah, I suppose that's true. It does. Turn has to. Well, so here's the problem with that theory, though, right? Like, let's do this. This one's gonna blow your mind. Oh, I got it. Let's put in some good values. 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. Okay, how is that working? Well, atomic molds are really something like gate. They coerce the values into a specific atomic type. So, yes, turn takes a function as an argument for it, but you might also see it used against a type, and you must remember that when it's doing that, it's really still applying something like a function. It's applying a coercion into a new type. Mm-hmm. I wish I knew Lisp because it sounds cool to say that you write Lisps. Yeah, I thought that would blow your mind, Darvin. Cool. Okay. Let's get started on the. Any other questions before we get started on the homework? Then. Let's remember what the homework is. Okay. Hold on one second. So get rid of Notepad. Now, I don't think. I mean, this one's easy. Build a gate that gives you all possible unshifted tapes. You just gotta recurse the head, right? So you're just recursing up here 26 times or whatever. That's dull. I want to do this one instead. Do exercise 2 from the same reading, which says extend the example generator to allow for the use of characters other than A to Z. Bonus. make it shift, make it clap the new characters independently of the alpha characters by character set, such that punctuation is only encoded as other punctuation and numbers are only encoded as other numbers. Yeah, hit me with your question about the bonus round because that's what I want to go to first. Also, throw out some ideas on how you think that might be done. There's like at least two ways that you could do it reasonably, but I think that one is more elegant, and I want to see if one of you comes up with that solution. Like, you don't have to tell me the whole idea, just like generally, what are we going to do to effectuate that result? Right, right. We're going to do more legs, and then how are we going to use more legs to give us a translation ability? There's really like two ways we can go from there. Judd, what's your question? I'm still looking for that. I think this is my favorite lo-fi music that we've played so far. Two lists of characters and their modulations, a test for membership of characters in list one. Okay, so see, that's definitely one way you could handle it. Effectively, I would describe your solution there, Judd, as you have multiple maps covering different character sets. Okay, so let me describe the two ways that you could do it. And I think this first way is the less elegant way. The second way is the more elegant way, in my opinion. Largely that's because the second way is the way that I came up with first. Okay, so what are those ways? The first of these is to create a map for each character type. You could have a map of alphabet characters, a map of punctuative characters, a map of numbers, a map of capital letters if you wanted to, right? We could go through all of these different permutations to accommodate larger and larger sets of potential characters in the incoming tape. However, in that way, you would have to check each character to see if it's part of a given set. So, like in the operate arm, like this gate would get a little distended because you'd be going, is a part of the map? Is it like one of the key values in? Or I'm sorry, one of the key positions in map A? How about in map B? How about in map C? How about in map D? Oh, it's in map D. Okay, give me the value from that key position in map D. That's a totally cromulent way of doing that. Well, you could join the maps too. Okay, so now there's three ways. So you could do that. You could produce the maps separately and evaluate them separately in the gate for operate. You could produce the maps separately and join them. There is an operation to join maps. In my opinion, the easiest way to do it is just to co-opt MapMaker and have it recurse. And when the key position and the value result of a given leg, which start out as alpha and what alpha and shifted alpha are done, we move on to like number and shifted number. Do you see? So we can just do all of that recursion in the mapmaker arm. We'll change these guys so that rotation doesn't call by alpha steps because we don't really need that. We could just call space adder with. We can really just call space adder. We don't even need to pass it anything. Yeah, I'm trying to remember how I did this the original time. Let's start off by adding. Hi, Sofa. You want to come up here? Come on. Come here. You can come sit on my desk. Good girl. Okay, so let's make what do we call it? Sim, and we'll have uh uh Oh, I can't do that. So we can't have that in there. I think we can have tick. Can I do that? Let's see. Yeah, okay. We don't need two of them. Question mark. Any other punctuation I see. There we go. Okay, so those are our symbol characters. And num. There we go. Okay, so that should be a complete set for us. So let's think about what we are going to do. We are going to call encoder with shift steps. That's fine. And we are going to call, yeah, let's just do it like this. Alp value tape sim value tape and num value tape. Okay, so now we have all three of those. Space adder, we don't. Here's something silly about how this is written right now. We don't need to pass alpha around in its standard state, right? Why would we need to do that? We don't. We don't need to. In fact, we can totally rip out the space adder arm. Like, let's do that. Let's just do. Okay. No more need for space adder. So we're going to rip out space adder entirely. And we are just going to go directly to mapmaker. I'm in the wrong one. And we're not going to pass it alpha because that's silly. But instead we're going to pass it our three converted values. Alp value tape, sim value tape, and num value tape. Alright? Okay, so let's talk about what we've done so far. We're going to operate our message using whatever encoder and shift step gives us. Encoder creates for us three shifted versions of our legs at the top. So it shifts alpha first and returns that as alp value tape. It shifts symbol next and returns, or I should say it trims it and welds the head to the butt of symbol next, and then it does it for number, right? So we're doing the same thing 3 times through. We know that rotation can take really any length tape. It's not programmatically set to do that for the alphabet, right? We should probably change this to say my tape. Right? Is this making sense so far? Tell me if I'm losing you on any part of this, because it's I don't mean to. I just want to get it in. Okay, so then we're sending to mapmaker 3 values. So we need to change the cell that mapmaker expects. We will change it to alp shift. No, alp in equals tape. Sim in equals tape. And num in equals tape. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we need to do one thing to make this work. I'm trying to think about this real quick. Yes, okay, so we'll do operation. We'll have another thing that is encode, and decode. Okay, so map maker, we will add one last thing that's operation. Op equals encode, decode. And why do we need, somebody tell me why we need these arguments. What's going to happen with this? I'll give you a hint. We've changed it so that we're not passing in our arguments in a specific position. So previously, space adder in the encoder arm called space, I'm sorry, the encoder arm called space adder with alpha value tape, and the decoder arm called it with value tape alpha. Could we use turn to map maker itself over the 3 tapes? Ooh. I'm trying to think about how we would do that. Yeah, we could. Let's go back a little bit. Okay, so here's... Okay, let me just think about it for a second. I like that solution a lot better. So I'm just going to do it a kind of lazy way. Alp map equals map pat t. Cause so I gotta turn this music down in my ears real quick. You could do this way up here, right? Pseudocode is join maps, turn map maker. So no, what I was thinking is more like this: join maps, map 1, map 2, map 3, and we get map 1 from turn map maker, or sorry, turn the cell of alpha and shift alpha map maker. Because if we do what you're describing, we still have to change map maker to accommodate new types coming in. But if we do it the other way, and not new types, but a new argument structure. If we do it the other way, like I've just described, we can leave map maker the same, and we can just modify the encoder and the decoder arms. So it'll look something like this. Map maker, we want the key position to be the standard, so alpha alp value tape, and we could let's just do it this way. Rotation alpha steps. We'll just take out this garbage. Sim map. What are you saying in here? Oh, I said that. Sim map is map pat t to pat t again. This time with map maker. Oh, I see. We're not even using turn then, are we? Ah, I get you. But turn... So the way we would do that, you're right, we still could do that. So it would be like turn map maker list of cells of alpha and shift alpha, sim and shift sim, and so on. Like, is that what you're thinking? We could do that. So that would produce for us maps in their place, 3 maps in a list. We can try that. You want to try that? I mean, you can see what I'm trying to do here on the right. It's not very complicated. We'd make 3 maps and then we'd join them. Okay. Okay. So we'll do it. My map list equals list map pat t, and it comes from turn. Is there a shorthand for senless? I don't think we actually need to. We can just do it like this. Turn. I'm just going to make it a face so it's a little easier to read. My list pairs. Let's take off my. That's silly. List pairs equals list of cell of tape, and it is rotation. No, it is alpha rotation alpha steps. Is there a faster way of writing that? Maybe. Let's do it like this. It'll be more attractive to write it as a sen sig simb rotation sim steps make rotation return the cell. Yeah, okay, I like that. So that would just be the cell. Ah, here's why we don't want to do that. Because decoder needs to do it in the other direction. Right? And if we have this return it in one direction or the other specifically, now we could give it an argument to make it return it one way or the other. But let's do it this way. I think this is a little easier. I like this method though. This is slightly different than I've done it before. Num rotation num steps. Okay. Beautiful. Let's actually, I think the proper way to write this would be like that. Woof. I like it my way first. Okay. We can even move this back against the wall. Okay. So now we have a list of our cells, and it's going to turn list pairs map maker pairs and let's just look up turn just to make sure that we can orbit.org turn. It should just take any. Yeah. It does it fine without a cell. Okay, so that should make our map list, and then we need to look at map logic because I don't map logic. I'm gonna see your question in just 1 second, or not question, but In this case, since no letter repeats on either side, we could either look up from values or keys, or just make the reverse map by flipping the key and value for each pair in the forward mapping. That's right. The latter half of that. I am not positive that there is a standard library operation to look up a key from a value, because values need not be exclusive. There might be one to return the first one of those. Let's see. Value. Grab unit value. Produce the unit value of value located at key. Produce the value located at key. Grab value with default. Produce value located at key. Produce an intersection of the if both maps have an identical key that point to different values. Mar produces map A with the addition of key value pair where value is non-empty. Add key value pair. Replaces value with accumulator. Transforms values. Iterate over every value in a map. List of values. I mean, that's helpful, but it... Yeah, I don't think there... Yeah, we do. We need floop map. But we can write it this way. This is no big deal. Let's see. Join map. Append. Oh, there's got to be one. Replace value with accumulator. Replace. A is a map. What is this? Add a key value pair. Produce a map with the addition of a key value pair. Produces a map of the key intersection between two maps of the same type A and B. That's only where they intersect. Ugh. Is there not one? Concatenate. Insert a list of key value pairs. A is a map, B is a list of cells of key value pairs P and Q. Oh, wait. Address of key. Produces the address of key within... Oh, no, that's the address, like the actual address in the binary tree. We have bifurcate. Huh. Do you think there's a flatten? Oh, that's very interesting. I'm not sure this will work because I'm not sure that we have a join for maps. We may need to go back to our original theory. Unless there is a... Because a map is really something like a list. It's a treep. A trape? Treep? I think it's pronounced treep. Difference, A is a map. Let's see. We don't want the difference, though. I love that there are no examples of difference. That's helpful. Difference as patch. A cell of maps. We don't want the cell of maps. Produces a map with the element located at key B. Yeah, but I saw that, but a map is not a list of key value pairs. I don't think that let's see. Maybe I'm wrong. So we could do like a my yeah it should be, but I think that the type won't let us regress. But I could be wrong. Let's see. So there's that, and so suppose we have gas by concatenate. I just want to see how it's used. Yeah. Okay. So B. Suppose we have what our current result would be, which is two maps to a. Oh, I'm sorry. Sophia, you're right in front of my monitor. 4D. So then it should be like gas by A, B. Yeah. But if we just did gas by A, 3C, 4D, that will produce. So can we flatten B back to a list of pat UD, pat T? No. Listify pairs. Produce a list of all. That's what we want to do. Tap by. So you can do. Appended to list B, which is empty by default. Yeah. Okay, so we could do it like this. Tap by B. There we go. Well, that's slightly ugly, but we can do it. So then what are we going to do here? So this makes 3 maps. And then we will take what am I doing? Where's my cat? So it's going to take the well, tap doesn't give us the addresses, it gives us the key value pair, and like you said earlier, if we get out the list from tap like we do here. Ooh. No, it maintained the type. They're just nuts. I don't know why they're making it into a noun here. That doesn't make any sense. You could just make it a list. Yeah, just like here. So they shouldn't have internal addresses that well, it doesn't matter if they have internal addresses. What they won't have is keys that are duplicate between those. The question is how do we I guess we could just do it like this. We can just take out alpha here such that we have symbol, number, and then we will turn that into a but see, why even do this then? This is just getting us off track here. We could just do like we could have a bunted so gas. What did gas do again? Gas gives me gas by insert a list of key value pairs. We could just make this list of pairs here. That's not a list of pairs yet. That's a list of tapes. List of pairs of tapes. Okay, 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 here we go. We could use turn here. So we have this. Let's make it list tapes. List tapes. And then we'll have this pair list, which should be a list of cells of pat T to pat T. And now we just need to write an arm, which we'll plug in here, that takes two tapes, pair maker, takes two tapes, and it's going to produce a list pat T to pat T. And we can basically steal exactly what happens here to do that. But we'll be making a list instead. Is there a zip function? Am I missing something? Yes, we're on the same page, Jed. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't looking at chat there. Perhaps it seemed like I was cribbing off your idea, which maybe I was. Maybe I'm lying now. You don't know. So if either of those is, then we'll... You know, this even saves us space by space. We can just put chart here. We'll add... No, we still need a type. Okay, we still need a list to add it to. Let's put it below the cast. Well, you know, you are welcome to write it, friend, as your teachers would always say. So we have a bunted out list. We're going to form a trap. Check if either of those are null. If so, out list. Otherwise, let's see. Zip. What else could you call it? Well, you could. It's kind of like Stitch. Piss. Oh damn it. Out list is the head of A and the head of B, and out list. These are a cell. A becomes the tail of A. B becomes the tail of B. Okay, so then we run turn against this list, and it's going to give us a list of lists of pairs. List of pairs. Yeah, I'm trying to think about how we would do that. Where would we weld? We do. So it would be like left fold it with weld as the accumulator. You're right. That makes sense. Hold on. So let me just think about this for a second. So turn list pairs, which is now called list tapes, with pair maker, and then we need the list logic. Left, what is it? It's roll? Left fold. So roll that with weld A, B. Does that work? Let me see. If I have roll does it need to be a gate? I think it needs to be a gate. Where's the nest fail? I wrote a good roll the other day, but I can't. What am I doing wrong here? There's not a cheat sheet for the standard library. But you could make one, submit a PR. Why is that failing? I have a good roll in a file that I've been writing. Let me look at that so I can remember how I did it, because I think it should work here. We want to go to app, picky. Roll envelopes, message map. Yeah, okay, so let's look at message map. Message map. Okay, I think it needs to have this. Yeah, there we go. I did it. See it? I really would like it if one of the functions was called piss. That would crack me up. Roll. So we'll have. I mean, we could just add it here, so we could have like. Elder. That's so weird that you have to say that the accumulator is an argument in the gate. Like, I find that very strange. Welder. Okay, so then that makes us just have a list of pat T's. A list of cells of pat T to set pat T. And then... Now I've forgotten what we were doing with that. Oh, then we just turn mapmaker with that list? Is that what we were going to do? Yes. Okay. I am going to save it here because I have to go eat dinner and go to bed eventually. I'm going to save it here. We're going to return to this tomorrow, but I think that this methodology should work for us. We'll iron that out with decoder, and we'll start debugging tomorrow. Okay, boys and gals? I'm sorry to take a run on you, but I gotta be done for the evening. I like this though. This is very elegant, I think. Okay, well, I'll be back with you guys tomorrow evening, where we'll finalize this, and then we'll just write the stupid one that makes it do everything 26 times. Or in our case, it's going to be 26 plus whatever this is, plus whatever that is. We might not even do that. We might just talk about how you can do it, because that's just simple recursion. Okay, talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening. Thank you all for joining. It was a really, really fun session. I really like working with all of you guys together to figure this out. So bring that energy tomorrow. And for the rest of the session, for the rest of the 3 weeks that we have together.